I like what I'm seeing right now when it comes to ZBCN, and let me explain why. Even though nothing I say is financial advice, I'm going to discuss 10 cents later on in the video and why I'm still thinking about that. But even beyond that, very recently, ZBCN Cards, right? They made a post on X, and they said that we've been listening closely to our community, and they say that when you ask, we deliver. They say something is on the horizon. Now, what could this be? They stay tuned this week. Now, I'm staying tuned. I'm going to be waiting, and I'm going to talk about that when they hypothetically do announce it. But why don't I feel like this is something that's just a joke or something like that? Because when I was first talking about this, some of my friends were like, oh, maybe they're just joking around. I hypothetically disagree with that because they don't have a history of doing that, first of all, when it comes to ZBCN. Typically, when they say they're going to do something, it's not something that, it's kind of like, a letdown, right? It doesn't really feel like that to me. It doesn't feel like they make things so big and then it's actually not. Because, like for instance, they were kind of talking about something big coming and then suddenly there was like that news about what they did in a sense kind of indirectly or somewhat directly with Deutsche Bank. So I find that very impressive. Also, we've seen previously what they've done with Algorand. Algorand just solely as a layer 1 blockchain is very famous. We've also seen, when it comes to ZBCN cards, what they did with Bonk, right? A Solana-based meme coin. So they've already had this track record, right? So to me, when they say something like this, I am very excited and I like what I'm seeing. However, again, this is, I'm assuming, regarding ZBCN cards, right? Because again, ZBCN cards did post this, on X. However, this actually, despite some people saying, oh, who cares about their cards, right? I actually like this because ZBCN is actually treating their project seriously. And I like that because initially, when a lot of people heard about, the ZBCN cards, they're like, who cares about this? A lot of projects out there have cards, even some of these meme coins and whatnot. I'm totally aware of that. But then they're actually taking it seriously. And that's what I like, because if ZBCN kind of announces things just for the sake of it, then, I don't know how to feel about that. I don't really like that, actually, because I see some other projects out there, they say, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do some of this. And it's just to really create, some attention, but they don't really do anything. But I like about ZBCN is that they're actually doing things, right? Because, for instance, ZBCN in and of itself is already this project that is known for payments and global trade and finance, right? But then not too long ago, we saw them acquire GateKnox, right? Being focused on compliance through that. I mean, they didn't necessarily have to do that, but they did that anyways. They also acquired something called Science Card UK, and they're focused on kind of the education market through that. Did they have to do that? No. I mean, just take a look at ZBCN. It had a pretty good rally, and that was not even during an altcoin season, in my opinion. And of course, it had a pullback, and then it had a recovery, and now we're seeing a pretty okay recovery. Still a ways to go, maybe, in the grand scheme of things. Only time will tell, but I'm just saying. They already kind of achieved a little bit of success. They didn't necessarily have to do that, but the fact that they did that anyways, that says something in my opinion. And I think maybe their perseverance and their dedication, could maybe something like Solana Ventures see that? Who knows? Because Solana Ventures is one of the backers when it comes to ZBCN, right? They don't need this, in my opinion. Like, Solana's already very massive, or should I say Solana Ventures? They don't need this. So if they believe in a project, I think it says something. Now, I'm not going to automatically believe in every single thing Solana Ventures believes in, but then at the same time, if they believe in a project that, quite frankly, again, they don't really need in the grand scheme of things, maybe they might see something. This is all, I'm just assuming, right? But then, this is just my perspective. Keep in mind as well, Circle, which is the creator of USDC, do you think they need something like this? You know what I mean? Circle, allegedly, they hold a big amount of ZBCN. I don't think they really need that. I mean, if I were to take a look at their hypothetical portfolio, I'm assuming that, their ZBCN holdings I'm assuming it's just kind of a very insignificant amount, considering that, again, they're publicly listed and they're the creator of USDC, the stablecoin. USDC is so popular, right? Now, of course, everyone, a lot of my friends at least, their number one go-to is like a USDT, but then still, USDC is still kind of like the number 2 for a lot of people, and it's just very famous. I don't think Circle needs this, but you know what? When they take a look at something like this and they become a backer of the project, again, when it comes to ZBCN, I'll pay attention, but this is just my perspective and I'm not telling you to do anything. Again, I'm not believing in every single project that Circle believes in, but this is just something that really excites me because if we take a look at Solana, it's emerging as a layer 1 blockchain, right? And when I take a look at that, ZBCN, it being top 10 in terms of utility when it comes to Solana not too long ago, I like what I'm seeing there because we've seen when Solana really kind of had that attention, even a lot of these meme coins went along with the ride. So if let's say there was that next leg up when it comes to Solana, I'm just very excited when it comes to ZBCN. Now, ultimately though, right? When it comes to the idea of maybe 10 cents, it is now around a 20x from here. Now, it's still kind of a ways away from where it once was, which was like, 10 cents not too long ago was like around 11x from here or whatever. So again, still around like a 2x away from that, give or take. But then I'm still staying excited because when it comes to ZBCN, it's been holding up pretty good, comparatively speaking to a bunch of other altcoins out there. ZBCN does not have the biggest market cap out there. It doesn't have the most amount of fans. It's not the most popular, but it's still holding up pretty strong, especially considering how it's not necessarily this very mainstream project, right? And, just overall, I still like what they're doing when it comes to payrolls, AI-based PayFi, real-world assets. When I take a look at, of course, their debit cards and, being focused on compliance. I mean, quite essentially, they are still working towards ISO 20022 compliance. So, yeah, I'm very excited when it comes to that. Only time will tell, though, but I still like what I'm seeing when it comes to Zebic because, again, they made that post, again, through the Zebic cards. That just really excites me. I mean, even if I just want to harp back a little bit on the Zebic cards, keep in mind, it is powered by MasterCard, right? So that is pretty impressive. Not to mention, when it comes to, the Zebic cards, right, they support like many blockchains, which do include something like, for instance, Ethereum, the Binance Smart Chain, Solana, the Base Network, and, many others. Keep in mind, the Base Network is Coinbase's layer 2. So that's pretty famous. Again, Coinbase is not only, pretty massive, but then it's also publicly listed, much like Circle, right? But then at the same time, if we take a look at Coinbase, what do I think makes it very exciting? It's because it is part of the S&P 500. So, overall, again, I'm just very excited. Only time will tell. And with the way, altcoins are heading as of right now, I just like what I'm seeing because if let's say this continues on till near the end of this year, and maybe even till the beginning of next year, sometime around there, if let's say there is an altcoin season during this cycle, it wouldn't surprise me if it looked better than back in 2021 because in the peak of the 2021 bull run, there was around 300 million crypto owners, which at that time was very impressive. But now there's supposedly over 600 million. And again, without an altcoin season, ZBCN is already doing this. So this is why I'm staying patient. Ultimately, I'm just controlling myself, right? Because that's the only thing I can do. I'm just dollar cost averaging, holding, and just waiting because I like what I'm seeing when it comes to Zebic. I like the, pretty okay recovery, and I'm still waiting as to what maybe it could do moving forward. So this is why I'm staying patient. And again, when it comes to what they're going to announce this week, when it comes to Zebic cards, only time will tell. But you know what? I'll talk about it when it does hypothetically happen, and I'm just staying patient. And feel free to subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'd greatly appreciate it. It's Willie the Captain, and I'll catch you all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.